We have identified some very, very interesting anomalous type of aircraft.
Traffic is quite luminous and is exhibiting some non-ballistic motion, over.
Move very rapidly at any speed or whether any direction it wanted to go. Flag could change and go to the right or the left or go crossways without hesitating a bit.
What do you think it was?
Well, if they call it a flying saucer, that's what it is.
EWA 517, do you want to report a UFO? Over. Negative. We don't want to report.
Look, it wasn't my worst Wednesday night.
Good evening, everybody. This is Smiles Lewis for another live edition of Anomaly-NOW, transmitting to you live from Austin, Texas. This is the weekly half-hour news roundup show of the Anomaly Archives, the nonprofit 501c3 organization that is the doing business as name of the Scientific Anomaly Institute, located here, as I say, in Austin, Texas. And tonight's going to be a little different, as is every one of these Wednesday night shows from now till the end of the year, because, of course, as you probably know, the Anomaly Archives is launching a series of emergency fundraiser Streamathons every Saturday from last weekend till the end of the year. So for the next several Saturdays, we're going to be starting at 1 p.m. Central Standard Time and going for 7 or 8 hours each night, each day, afternoon and evening, with a wide variety of anomalous presenters, lecturers, speakers, some music, and some Fortean film fests. But you can find out more about that at anomalyarchives.org. But tonight, my normal co-host, Mark Jackson, he's not feeling too well, so he's taking the night off. We wish him well, and I'm sure he'll be back soon enough. But we've got plenty of friends here tonight, and I'd love to introduce you each to them. Tonight, we've got our return guest to Anomaly-NOW, and that is Chris Rutkowski, who is a media professor at University of Manitoba. Did I get that right, Chris?
Yeah, I'm at the University of Manitoba. Yeah.
And he is going to be one of our presenters, and we'll get to talking to him a little bit more in just a second. And then we also have Brent Raynes, who's the longtime editor and publisher of Alternate Perceptions, an amazing paranormal magazine that's been around for a long time, from back in the print zine days to now in the virtual zine days online. He's also a biographer of sorts of John Keel, and we'll be talking some more with Brent momentarily. And we've got another presenter who's going to be on our Saturday lineup joining us, and that is Professor WHAM. Hey, Professor.
Hey, how you doing?
Doing good. And, of course, folks who've been following the Anomaly Archives will recognize her from our fairly recent, not too long ago, Eugenia Macer's Story panel presentation, where she was one of the main presenters on the amazing life and interesting ideas promoted by the psychic and paranormal investigator and artist and musician and playwright Eugenia Macer's Story. Well, thank you all so much for joining me. It's really been a crazy time, as you probably have seen me say in some of my emails, and I know it's crazy for everybody else for all the obvious reasons, and I thank you so much for taking the time to be here. So for folks who aren't really aware of what is going on, the Anomaly Archives is in a funding crisis. We are at the end of our lease. It's coming up at the end of the year, beginning of next year, and we're trying to raise enough money to continue in the space that we're in. We're trying to raise $20,000, and we launched our Streamathon last week, and we're on our way to that goal. you can go to our website, anomalyarchives.org, and you can see the schedule for all the upcoming Streamathon events, including the one coming up for this weekend that features our guests here tonight. They're going to be presenting this coming Saturday, November 28th, and we'll get to a little bit more about that. But yeah, we've got a long way to go, but we're off to a decent start. We've gotten over $1,200, almost $1,300 towards our 20,000 goal, and we are actually right now in the midst of a challenge matching grant of up to $5,000. So if we can get to $5,000, we'll have reached half of our goal with a total of $10,000. So of course, we know everybody's having a really tough time right now, and we don't want people to give if they aren't in a position to do so. But again, folks can go to the website and see more information about that. We also this wonderful artwork by one of our other upcoming Saturday presenters, Miguel Romero, aka RPJ, Red Pill Junkie. This is a cropped version of this wonderful artwork that's so detailed. It's got so much. It's got a librarian, shushy alien there behind the desk, and a ghost reading human stories book. Mothman taking a peek there, and the MIB rummaging through the file cabinet, and of course Patty or some other named Bigfoot with a bunch of really great books in their arms. So and there's a new merch store supporting that. You can go and you can buy stuff with that image on it, and that of course supports us as well. But here's the big lineup for this Saturday. We've got Miguel Romero starting off at 1:10 p.m. With his presentation on the mysterious Umo affair, and then followed up by at 2:30 p.m. Professor WHAM talking about aliens are alienated, and we'll hear more about that momentarily. And then Brent Raynes at 3:30 talking about the myths and mysteries of the UFO Matrix. And then at 4:30, Craig Woolheater talking about Caddo creatures, Bigfoot in Jefferson, Texas. And rounding out the day's events is at 5:30, Chris Rutkowski, Preserving Ufological History, The Canadian Connection. And then we'll be closing out the evening with a screening of the amazing collage artwork film by director Craig Baldwin called Mock-Up on Moo, which chronicles everything from L. Ron Hubbard and Aleister Crowley to gosh knows what else in between. So anyway, enough of that. Really just thank you so much, each of you, for being here. Professor WHAM, we've got you coming on first among the lineup of people who are here tonight. Can you give us a little bit of a teaser for what you're going to be talking about?
Well, as I explained to you, I decided that, since you've always been interested in what I did my dissertation on, because I wanted to sort of honor that, you had asked me whether I'd be willing to do something with my dissertation with that topic. Even though I wrote that dissertation 20 years ago, the topic that I came up with that links my concerns and interests with that dissertation with the present book that I published last year, Mysterious Beauty, Living with the Paranormal in the Hudson Valley, is my interest in seeing how mainstream narratives about UFO contact and abduction specifically, although not exclusively, but specifically, are very much interconnected and intertwined with, and I'm just talking about North American culture, really, with a lot of our ideas, our cultural ideas about race and ethnicity and how that is deployed. That was the basis of my dissertation. And, one of the concerns that I've had with this topic is this is it seems like a kind of academic topic for a lot of people, but I actually see this working in some really obvious ways. When I wrote the dissertation, and I'll use a few examples from the dissertation in my talk, but in the dissertation, one of the things I really looked at the time was the way in which aliens are portrayed in movies, in alien movies, and in common stories about contact. And even not only that, but whose stories get privileged. When I did my research for my dissertation, which took over 10 years to do, one of the things I found is that is that at least at the time, and this was, again, 20 years ago, at least at the time, there were hardly any narratives that were available in mainstream culture that came from indigenous communities, that came from African American communities. In fact, one of the things that I discovered in my research was that at the time there was this actually a subculture, a kind of an underground stream of alien abduction and contact stories in African American cultures, especially in the Midwest and in the Southeast, that were completely unknown to the larger sort of UFO paranormal world. And so I talk about that in the dissertation. Now, how that has come forward into the book that I wrote last year, that I published last year, is because I am looking at paranormal narratives and experiences and reports in the Hudson Valley. I concentrated a lot more on indigenous stories. And because the Hudson Valley is known to be a place where there are lots of different types of paranormal things that are reported. But one of the things that I discovered here was, again, there is this sort of underlying stream of paranormal report that dates to the pre-settler period. And a lot of these stories are, while they inform some of the assumptions that people make, settlers made, the Dutch and then the English, and now, people today make about, beasts that are in the woods or ghosts or what hauntings consist of. A lot of times people that are telling these stories now are unaware of the indigenous coloration or strain that is there. And this is true even of individuals who actually do paranormal investigation. So those are the kinds of things I'm talking about. It's not a matter of me, telling the paranormal community, oh, you're a bunch of colonial racists and you need to get your crap together. It's nothing like that at all. It has to do with being willing to examine the assumptions that we bring to narratives about contact. When we are researching a story, when we are getting an account from someone, even when television producers come and contact me and they want certain stories. This happened just 2 weeks ago, where I was contacted by a television production company from LA, and they'd heard about my book and they wanted only certain types of stories. And I told them, why do you want these kinds of stories? This is not what my book is about, and it has to do with a perception about what is important about these stories. And so, regardless of what you think about the objective nature of them, the stories that we tell about an experience are in many ways almost as important as the experience itself, because that is what mediates the meaning of that experience, to another person or to a larger narrative. And so that's the sort of thing that I'm talking about. I sound a little disorganized right now. It's because I'm actually just right now putting my thoughts down in order. I've just spent 6 hours cooking pies. So it's like I haven't had time to read my notes. So this is actually what I'm doing tomorrow afternoon during Thanksgiving. While family is Zooming, I'm going to be finishing my notes. So
well, we certainly appreciate it, and of course I definitely want to wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving. I know that this is perhaps was definitely a tougher holiday season than most for so many, and it really warms my heart that y'all have taken the time not just to participate in the fundraising effort on the Saturday, but also to take the time now. So thank you so much, and I am so excited to hear more about this WHAM, because your dissertation is something that I've been fascinated by for a long time, and it's part of a larger collection of academic approaches, anthropological approaches to this very idea and this thread of the colonial aspect and the issues of race and ethnicity. So thank you so much. And I would add that if any of y'all want to stick around after the end of the show to talk about briefly technical stuff, you can, but if you've got a place to go, I totally understand. Anyway, moving right along. Thank you, WHAM. And so I guess next up in the lineup for Saturday is Brent. Brent, why don't you tell us a little bit more about, I don't have the title right at hand, but
Myths and Mysteries of the UFO Matrix. Yeah.
Thank you.
No problem. I just had a book come out about John Keel, but it wasn't just strictly a biographical book. It was also explaining, it was interviews with people who had known Keel and been influenced by his alternative approach. Some have called it the Keelian approach. And I first got into ufology back in actually January 1967. I was 14, and I just had read Frank Edwards' Flying Saucers Serious Business. And at the time, my perspective was they're either from, visitors from outer space, the mainstream view that's popular, or else the Air Force was right. It's weather balloons and Venus on the horizon. And then there were writings by authors, like Jacques Vallée, 1969 with his Passport to Magonia, and of course, John Keel's writings. Initially, I was reading his articles in different magazines, Saga and so on, and it was, he had ideas of other interactions other than just a close encounter or landing. People were actually having contact experiences they felt or different things like that. So I was intrigued by what he was, his ideas. He even expressed ultra-terrestrials from a parallel world. And, of course, now this idea of other dimensions and things is quite popular. But I started corresponding with him back in October 1969, and for 2 or 3 years we had a pretty intense one, and I exchanged newsletters with him. I had a little mimeograph newsletter I called the Scientific Sauceritis Review, and of course he had his Anomaly. And I really got into that and got interested in the UFO contactee experience and gradually evolved into other elements, shamanism and all kinds of parapsychological phenomena. And so that's really what I wanted to get into. The Matrix could be other multiverse, or we could be talking about other aspects or angles of this that aren't generally explored. And I think that Greg Bishop's, he had made a statement one time I put a lot of confidence in, and that was that we have really UFO organizations have generally followed this mainstream ET bias of just trying to prove that alone and ignored alternative possibilities. And people in these organizations should be allowed to, not only explore the ET aspect, which I'm not against at all, but other possibilities relating to these reported activities.
Absolutely. He's Greg, who is also going to be a presenter. He's a longtime dear friend of mine, and he and his zine, The Excluded Middle, back in the 1990s, were one of the big gateways for me to meet so many of these amazing researchers and fellow seekers along the path, and then this weird and varied community. And his. Like so many people, I think there's an arc of discovery and of changing one's perspective. At the same time, I think a lot of us, and I know that I speak for myself at least, that you do get to a point sometimes where it's like, well, you may still take in new information and have new perspectives, but more or less your angle, especially if it's more inclusive and multidisciplinary, can kind of get solidified. And I feel that way myself, but I wouldn't speak for everybody else. But well, thank you, Brent, and people should check out his Alternate Perceptions online mag. What's the actual URL for that?
It's apmagazine.info.
Right. Thank you. All right. Well, Chris is going to be our next speaker, who's in the lineup, and is actually going to be Craig Wilheater, who, like I said, isn't here tonight. But Chris is going to round out the lineup on Saturday. So, preserving ufological history, the Canadian connection, and I know that we mentioned this when he was last on, and one of the things that I'm really glad and proud of Chris for doing is ensuring his legacy and the research that he has done by donating his collection of UFO related materials and probably other fields of entry, but of interest to the University of Manitoba there. And they are, of course, also trying to raise funds for the digitization of those materials. And we'll have a little bit more information about that this Saturday. So, Chris, can you give us a little bit about what you're going to be talking about on Saturday?
Sure, thanks. It's going to be, like you said, about preserving and maintaining the history of ufology. Actually, I started as a pure Fortean. I started into, as a matter of fact, this is my second book, which Unnatural History, which covered UFOs, abductions, crop circles, hauntings, and Sasquatch. I also talked about lake monsters. I was fascinated with everything that was going on in this particular part of the world. I ended up interviewing witnesses, doing lots of historical research, and produced that. But I ended up focusing on UFOs because I simply can't do everything. And I found that there was a lot of interest in specifically the UFOs were at the time that I started, which was in the mid-1970s, by talking with people about a UFO flap and a wave that was going on at the time. I was in university, and my astronomy prof didn't want to have anything to do with UFOs, so I gladly took the phone calls on his behalf, and ended up, meeting so many people. I started investigating, writing. I actually have 10 books out now, and along the way, I took an interest in the documentation of all these cases. And in 1989, I began publishing and producing the annual Canadian UFO Survey, which tried to gather in all the data on all the UFO reports filed in Canada, in one country, in a year. And over the years, the numbers of cases increased to the point where we have somewhere in the neighborhood of 1,000 cases per year. And since 1989, we have more than 20,000 UFO cases on file now, and all those cases are they document what's going on in terms of the foundation of ufology. Forget the speculation about disclosure and what's coming next, and there's going to be great revelations. This is what all the ufology is really about, the actual reports. And it's not just reports from civilians, it's also reports from military and government sources, and it goes right up to the present day. And I'm going to try and do something right now. I'm going to share a screen with this. Now, can you see my document by any chance?
No, I'm not seeing it popping up yet.
Okay, well, forget about that. Then we'll work on that for.
Right, that's one of the technical things that we need to.
One of the technical things we'll have to work. So, anyways, some of these documents are from military sources, from NORAD, from a whole host of areas, to get a real snapshot of what people are reporting. And I was approached by the university archivist to donate my entire collection. Now, what you see behind me is some of that. Not only several thousand books on UFOs and related phenomena, including paranormal phenomena, Sasquatch, and so forth, but a lot of artifacts, plus all the original files, all the 20,000 cases and more. Plus, not included in that are the government documents themselves. So this represents a significant investment There was a fundraising effort that started just as the pandemic was hitting, so that got stalled a little bit through the university. But the idea is to digitize all of this so it's preserved for everyone to use, so that other researchers can take advantage of this. And I'll be talking about some of what's in the files and some of what's been going on in Canada over the past number of years.
I can't wait to hear more. And again, this is what this is all about. And we have reached out to a number of different similar archival-oriented organizations. With the fairly recent passing of legends like Stanton Friedman. And the infamous photo of yours, Chris, of him sitting in the midst of that room filled with just totally seemingly just chaos, just a chaos of files and papers. And I know that the librarians and archivists working on that collection have their work cut out for them. But what's important is that these things not be lost. It's far too common. And I know we've heard of so many cases where family members, after the passing of somebody with these kinds of interests, either actually resent the material or just don't have an appreciation for it, and it often just gets thrown into a dumpster or sold on eBay to just whoever, either piecemeal or just some collector who may just be interested in reselling it for even more money. And none of that benefits the fields of research that these are all data points for. So
I'm not getting rid of the Reddit alien, by the way.
Okay. Yes, I see him, and I see there's you're the big head behind you to your right also is.
You can see him.
Yeah, he's right there.
We're having the same hallucination.
Yes, it's a consensual hallucination. That's awesome, y'all. I really do appreciate y'all taking the time again for tonight, but more importantly for this Saturday. Again, folks, we're going to be doing this every Saturday between now. I can't believe we're trying this every Saturday between now and the end of the year, and you can get details. As I say, over at our Anomaly Archives website, and it'll route you to our Streamathon page, which has all the lists of speakers, their biographies, links to their websites, their books, everything you need to get yourself ready for this. We also, of course, still have the archive for last week's Streamathon. Like I say, it's about 7.5 hours with many speakers, Zelia Edgar, Ken Gerhard, another Texas cryptozoologist, Walter Bosley, and Paul Kimball. And then if for a limited time, Paul Kimball let us stream 4 episodes back to back of his Haunted TV series. This is a Canadian paranormal investigation series. It's one of a few that he's been doing over the many years now. And that was a lot of fun. Being down here in the southern United States, I don't really have access to all that awesome Canadian programming, and so it was a treat to take a look at that. And right now, it's available for everybody. But again, folks can go to anomalyarchives.org, and anything people can do. If you can't give money, if you can help spread the word, it is free to watch, and it is a gold mine of information and perspectives on a wide variety of strange phenomena. So, I told you this wouldn't take long. We usually keep it to 30 minutes, and I really appreciate each of you taking the time. I'm going to go ahead and close out the show, so we'll all be off screen briefly. But if any of y'all want to hang out and either chat or attempt some technical stuff, we'll do that momentarily. So to our audience, I say good night, and to my friends and guests here, we'll be right back. All right, let's see. Where's the close?
Stay weird.